entertain a motion to come out of recess and here for planning commission meeting.
I make a motion that we come out of recess for the, I make a motion we come out of recess for the land use hearings in regards to Hughes Landscaping and Richard Land's composting.
Is there a second?
I guess I would ask the attorney if that's a proper motion to open both public hearings at the same time.
I can rephrase it.
Yeah, I think just a motion to come out of recess and open land use hearings would probably be best.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. I make a motion that we come out of recess to hear land use hearings.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it's 1:01 p.m. and we are officially out of recess, back in session. So with that being said, we'll start with the first item, which is the Hughes Landscape Special Use by Review.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners.
We will need to open a public hearing on this.
So motion to open a public hearing.
I make a motion we open a public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Danny Klebanner, and I'm a planner in the Community and Economic Development Department here in Elbert County. The first case I'll be presenting is Hughes Landscaping, a special use by review, and the case number is SU-2024-4260. Brief summary for this: the site is located at 42600 Summit View Court, Parker, Colorado 80138. The site size is 35 acres. The zoning is agriculture, and the request here is for a special use by review for the continued operation of a landscaping and sod business. Here's a look at the map here. That little star in the top left corner is where the site is located. As you can see, it's in the far western and northwestern portion of the county, very near the border with Douglas County. Here's a look at the zoning map of the property. The property there has the star in the middle. It is right there off of Summit View Court. To the north, there is residential agriculture. To the south, there is residential agriculture 1 zoning. And to the east, you have another residential agriculture property, 6.3 acres approximately, and there to the west is an agricultural property that borders Douglas County. It has 2 residences and outbuildings, property to the west there. Here is an aerial view of the site. As you can see, in the middle there, it is the site with the tree farm and greenhouses. Right now, the site is it is a 35-acre property, zoned agriculture with a sod and tree farm. There's greenhouses, an office, and a residence on the property. There is no floodplain on this property. And in terms of wetlands, there's a riverine wetland that is seasonally wet to the east of the residence, so kind of near that treed area on the right side of your screen. And right now, the existing zoning and land use is agriculture with the existing sod and tree business. There's no change in zoning requested. Here's a look at the site from ground level. There's the Hughes Landscaping office there. All right, a brief introduction to the property. It is a landscaping and sod business. This is primarily a compliance special use by review because the business has been operating for 30 plus years. The business employs between 12 and 65 employees, depending on the season, with the winter season being that 12 approximate employees, whereas the summer and spring, about 65. So customers can come to the location to pick up materials. A primary function of the site is delivery of materials. There's sod and landscaping trucks that will arrive daily. The tree farm and greenhouses are uses by right and are not part of the special use by review, as they are allowed by right on agricultural zoning. Here's a look at the site plan. It's kind of hard to see, so I will move into a more detailed look of the special use exhibit. This special use features an office there toward the lower portion of your screen. There's a vehicle storage area, a sod storage barn, equipment storage, pine and sod yard, and a gravel parking area. These are all important features that support the business. A brief introduction for the project timeline. We had a pre-application for this these uses back in March of 2023. There was a community meeting in April of 2023. The first review cycle after the formal application was in April of 2024. We had a subsequent review cycle to address some building permitting questions. All noticing requirements meet Elbert County zoning regulations, with a posting in Ranchland News on December 19th, quarter-mile radius mailings December 24th of 2024, and on-site sign posting December 23rd of 2024. So this project went through 2 referral cycles, and these are the departments and agencies that commented on the project. They include our Road and Bridge Department, Assessor, Zoning Compliance, Building Department, Emergency Management, our Planning Department, as well as some outside referral agencies like Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Lumen and Core, Colorado Division of Water Resources. All right, so for the community meeting, there were approximately 14 residents in attendance, as well as family members of employees and others. A few concerns that were included in the meeting included traffic, dust, and water usage. There were several comments also received in support of this application, and no additional public comments were received following the community meeting phase. So that means in the lead up to Planning Commission and the leading up to this hearing today, no additional public comments were received on this application. So a brief summary of the Planning Commission discussion. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. There were no concerns or added recommended conditions of approval. There was a brief discussion on why this sod farm was included in this special use by review, and that's because a majority of the sod is actually grown off-site, so it's not exactly an agricultural product like the tree farm and some of the other stuff grown on site. So that's why it's included in this special use by review. So Elbert County has 8 criteria to judge special use by review cases. On your screen, you'll see a brief summary of each point, and I'll go in detail. And this is how we judge our applications from a land use perspective. So you as commissioners will be asked to judge the application based on these criteria. The first is the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. Hughes Landscaping is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. The sod and landscaping business, in at least some capacity, has existed for over 30 years. This special use by review will bring the business in compliance with county regulations and ensure that this commercial use is allowed into the future. Several neighbors also stated their support for this business. The business fits well with the agriculture and residential mix in the area, providing trees and sod to the neighborhood as well as the greater metro Denver area. B, the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. Elbert County Public Works Department reviewed the application and had no objections. In addition, Kimley Horn reviewed the application and stated that this is in general a low trip generator. The applicants provided a traffic study that states the estimated trips will not adversely impact the traffic on local streets, as the business has existed for over 30 years in the current configuration. As traffic on Delbert Road increases in the future, the county may need to install turn lanes at subdivision entrances or improve the road design to maintain a good level of service on Delbert Road. C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Our Road and Bridge Department, Elbert Counties, reviewed the application materials and had no objections to this long-established business. There are no alterations to the right-of-way or changes to the use of the property being proposed. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The uses are not believed to cause any significant forms of pollution. The applicant understands the residential and agricultural nature of this area. During the community meeting, air, odor, water, noise, and light pollution were discussed with no real concerns about pollution from this business arising. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. The Elbert County Public Health Department reviewed the application. The applicant provided up-to-date information on their on-site wastewater treatment system. That's OWTS, you might see in the future. Inspection of both OWTS located on the property were completed on June 16th of 2023. No deficiencies were noticed on the inspection. Both treatment systems are functioning adequately, and documentation was provided to Elbert County Public Health. And here are the final three. The use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. The southern property line parallel to the access road is lined with trees. There are no new buildings proposed, and the neighborhood is familiar with the sod, landscaping, and tree farm land uses on the property. The north property line adjacent to the parking area is also lined with trees. There's also fencing surrounding the tree storage and greenhouse areas. Additionally, the equipment storage area is located in the interior of this special use area. G, the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This use will not be detrimental to Elbert County residents. Rattlesnake Fire Protection District also reviewed this application and determined that all requirements have been met. And finally, H, all supplemental standards are met for specific uses as applicable. No supplemental standards apply to this application. Based on review of approval criteria and the findings from the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions for the Hughes Landscaping special use by review. It is also consistent with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This proposed special use promotes, one of our goals is economic growth. Elbert County should encourage economic development that minimizes impacts to surrounding lands. Another economic development goal is the county should support the development of agriculture, commerce, industry, education, healthcare, natural resource development, tourism, and residential growth. This fits in that agriculture and commerce kind of cross-section. With that, staff recommend that the Board of County Commissioners find the following. One, it is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. Two, it is generally compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area. 3, it will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. 4, it will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. 5, it will not cause significant forms of pollution. 6, it will meet all sanitation requirements. 7, it will be buffered. 8, it will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. And 9, it will conform to supplemental standards applicable for proposed uses. These are pretty generic conditions. The first is that the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the special use by review will not become effective until all fees are paid, other conditions of approval are met, and the special use by review exhibit is recorded. And finally, 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. So that concludes my presentation for Hughes Landscaping SUR case SU-2024-4260.
Thank you. So is the applicant present?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Congratulations to the new board. I know everyone's excited to see how you all work together over the upcoming months. I'm Grace Erickson, Providence Consulting Applicant Representative. Also present is Gary Longwell with Hughes Landscaping. I won't reiterate everything from Danny's presentation. It was a very thorough overview. As Danny mentioned, this business has been at its present location for quite some time, 35 years. It's a staple Elbert County business, well respected in the community. And we're not proposing any changes with this SUR. The SUR is really to formalize, codify the property's existing use. And that use is landscaping services and sod and plant storage and sales. And that's my overview. I'm happy to answer any questions when appropriate.
Sorry. In regards to the application in general, some might be for staff, some might be for the applicant. We'll get there. A little clarification real quick about the sod aspect. I was confused whether sod was brought in at wholesale and then sold at retail, or was it grown on site?
Brought in. It's not grown on site, and that is the reason why previous staff required the SUR for that portion of the business.
Yeah, and that's where the confusion came in, because it says the business has a sod farm with about 20 employees tending to the sod farm and working on site. So I got the impression from that statement on page 67 of our packet that it was grown on site versus wholesale and retail.
It's stored on site. There's still a maintenance component to it, so it's a bit of a gray area.
Okay. And then I only have one other question. And let me just start by saying I love the business plan. I love the fact that they're long-term Elbert County employers, 30-plus years. I'm sure the county looked totally different when they started business, and I'm glad they're here. My question is in regards to the water permitting of the wells. So if you look at the Division of Water Resources letter, it says the wells are permitted for residential and office use in shops, irrigation of lawn, garden, and trees, up to 65 employees. I don't consider that residential. It's obviously commercial, looking at the pictures, the amount of employees, 26 pickup trucks, 2 vans, 3 semi-sod haulers, 4 sod delivery trucks, et cetera, on the property. So it's commercial, and I don't have a problem with that. But the use of these wells, based on the DWR letter, must be in compliance with their permits. It also went on to say proposed water uses and water demand requirements were not provided to them.
So we have an adequacy of water supply letter from a water attorney that was part of our application. This is a little different because we already have a decree, we already have permits. We do believe the business is in compliance with the permits, which allows for the commercial use in the specific well permits. But with what we gathered from the letter, which we sent to our water attorney, is that this business is in compliance with the current well permits, with the current decree, so long as it remains in compliance with those specific permits, which requires the wells to be metered, and there's, of course, a cap on usage.
Okay, that was exactly where I was going with that, because it says, so long as these wells are used accordingly, this office has no comments on this referral, right? But then one of my solutions was to monitor the usage. And that's what it
Correct.
sounds like you guys have already have it planned and,
Yes, we ran that comment, as I mentioned, by our water attorney, and a lot of that is Colorado Division of Water Resources kind of standard language. But correct, we ensure that we are in compliance with the current well permits, which are current and active for the business.
okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Do we have any public input on this application? Seeing none. Moving on to a BOCC decision. We had the discussion, but Dallas, do you have anything you want to ask, any questions at this point?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So the BOCC decision, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve Hughes Landscaping SU 2024-4260.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Need a motion to close this land use hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close this land use hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we need a motion for Richard Land's compost special use by review for SUR-2023-1558.
Mr. Chair, I move we open public hearing for Richard Land's composting SUR 2023-1558.
Second, sorry.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners. Here for the second case, I will be presenting Richard Land's Composting SUR, and that is case number SUR-2023-1558. This site is located at 15585 County Road 166, and that's Kiowa. The site size is 39.25 acres. The zoning for this site is agriculture, and the request here is a special use by review for a Class 2 composting facility. That is one that receives agricultural waste. The applicant for this project is Jonathan Wetstein with Richard Land's Compost LLC. The location of this is in northwest Elbert County. It's located on County Road 166 between the two major roads, Kiowa Bennett Road and Comanche Creek Road. Again, the site address is 15585 County Road 166, Kiowa, Colorado 80117. The current owner of the property is Robert Stoner. Here is a look at the zoning map of the property. It is that 40-acre parcel with the star. As you can see, it is entirely surrounded by other agricultural properties. To the north is a 40-acre property with a residence. Then there is also a Harmony Land and Cattle property there adjacent to the northwest corner, that very large kind of property shaped a little bit like Elbert County. To the south, there is agriculture and ranch lands with a 2,080-acre property approximately that has 13 acres and a residence. To the east, again, is agriculture with approximately 40-acre property. And to the west, right now, there is a 40-acre property that's currently vacant, also zoned agriculture. Here is a look at the property aerial view. That property outlined in blue is the subject property. And here's a look on the ground of the property. As you can see, it's gently sloping, and you can kind of make out a water tower back there, but it's hard to see. All right, so the project summary for this, it's going to be a Class 2 composting facility. That means it can receive agriculture and vegetative waste. Some of the waste to be composted include, but are not limited to, large animal or livestock manure, bedding materials, straw bales, hay bales, woody waste, yard waste, agricultural plant waste, and other type 1 vegetative waste. This project meets Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment standards. They have a fairly rigorous review process for this. That's part of the reason why the referral period lasted so long. It is a composting facility that helps manage organic waste and also produces a valuable resource for the community that helps increase crop yields, save on costs, and creates a more sustainable and resilient agricultural system. A little more about the project. There's approximately an 8-acre area that's used as a compost work area. Then there's additional storage area for green waste and finished compost. And the engineering, design, and operations plan will serve as the development guide that this SUR will adhere to. One main concern with compost facilities is odor control. And this is very thoroughly addressed through the engineering, design, and operations plan. So each day, new materials will be covered with a minimum of 3 inches of capping materials. So capping materials act as a biofilter for the compost and will consist of unscreened compost and carbon-based materials such as wood chips or woody materials, or a combination of these. Another treatment is biochar, a proven treatment for odor control, and that may be added to any material if necessary for immediate odor control. All windrows will be covered with the compost and other materials to protect against weathering of windrows, odor, dust, and other potential pollution. If excessive and noxious odors are detected, the operator will locate the source and take appropriate steps to eliminate them. Remediation activities will consist of aeration, additional capping of materials, application of deodorizing materials at the source, removal of materials from the site, the use of biofiltration, or a combination of these items. There's also plans for aerated static piles, that's ASP, and that's another method that helps control odor. Here's a look at what a compost facility looks like. Those large lines are considered the windrows. And there's different areas depending on finished materials versus the raw materials and materials in that composting process. So more noise, light, and water pollution control. So there's 3 monitoring wells that will require quarterly sampling per Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So that's very important to maintain that this operation is not polluting any groundwater. The noise from heavy equipment and processing equipment will only be normal during normal business hours during the day. And the site generally will be operational between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. It does not cause light pollution. Here's an overview of the composting facility. It's kind of hard to see. I'll give kind of a general layout to you because it's a relatively large site, but that strip on the bottom is the drive. It'll have a 200-foot turning radius, where at the back you'll have the finished product storage area. In the middle is the main composting work area. And with the aerated static pile system, it's that little box kind of in the corner of that large rectangle. Then you see to the left of that, there's an impoundment area where all water from the site will be collected, and that water can then be reused in the composting process. It also prevents any runoff from the site. And that's very important for recycling water, minimizing water use, and obviously protecting from runoff. A brief background for the project timeline. This came into Elbert County back in 2022. For this iteration, there was a previous iteration that did not end up going through at a different site. This was a wholly new site. And the community meeting then for this was 2022 July. The application was formally submitted in January of 2024, so January of last year. The application was accepted by us January 3, 2024. There's a lot of components that go into this. So it took a few review cycles from especially Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to review the plan and provide an approval. That was included in the packet. Our engineering department also looked at it, among several other agencies. All notice requirements were met per Elbert County zoning regulations, 14-day advance notice. With a posting in Ranchland News December 19th of last year, on-site sign posting December 18, 2024, and quarter-mile radius mailing. One note I'd like to add is the hearings had to be noticed a second time due to the error in the initial newspaper publication, which stated that it was to be heard December 7th instead of the 17th. Because of that error, we had to move the Planning Commission hearing then to January 7th of this year. So there was some delay on our part. This project met all referral criteria, all review criteria, and that included review from engineering, which we contracted out for this to Kimley Horn, our Public Works Department, Public Health Department, Office of Emergency Management, the Assessor's Office, Building Department, Planning Department, Elbert County Sheriff, Elbert County Road and Bridge Division of Public Works, Colorado Division of Water Resources, Colorado Geologic Survey, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, all played an important role in getting this application to the finish line. So there were a few opportunities for public comment for this application. The first was the community meeting, where there were a few residents there. Some concerns included some that I've addressed, like noise, odor, traffic, potential dust, impact on property value, and future development potential in the area. Obviously, this is still completely agricultural area with some people in the agricultural area just with residences, not as active farmers or ranchers. Then we had 3 comments received in opposition in the lead up to the Planning Commission meeting, and we did receive 1 more comment in lead up to the Board of County Commissioners meeting, but it was after the agenda cutoff. We have that comment on hand. If the commissioners would like, we can deliver that additional comment.
Hello, Mr. Chair, Mark Denreader, Director of Community and Economic Development. Would it be okay to approach and distribute that late add public comment? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so for Planning Commission, this was recommended for approval unanimously with a 5-0 vote. There was an added 2 recommended conditions that Planning Commission mentioned. One included dust control on County Road 166, and the other was about fencing as necessary for security and flying debris. I will add that there are plans for security fencing at the front of the property currently. Right now, the landscaping and buffering screening plan is for natural vegetation on the east and west property lines. After that meeting, I consulted Public Works to mention Planning Commission's potential concerns about dust, and the Public Works Department provided their own recommendation, which was included in the packet. The recommendation from Public Works following the Planning Commission meeting, again, was added to the packet, but it pertained to adding a letter of understanding, and basically that we don't want private citizens to basically maintain county roads. That's not a good solution from them. So there was some discussion on how to address the concerns for dust and traffic, and that was again included in the packet, but we can address it further if there are questions. All right, so moving forward to the approval criteria. A, the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. This composting facility should be in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. The properties surrounding Richard Land's composting are primarily large ranching properties, although there are a fewer smaller agricultural properties the size of this location. And this special use also supports agriculture. This is a very agricultural area of the county, and the location near large agricultural properties is appropriate for a composting facility. B, no undue burden on infrastructure. Richard Lands will be accessed from an entrance built to Elbert County commercial standards from County Road 166. The applicants provided a traffic letter produced by an engineer that indicates the use will not disrupt traffic in the area. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment reviewed the plans, and the engineering, design, and operations plan was approved by the state. And that approval letter was also included for you. C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden existing road systems. Elbert County Road and Bridge Department reviewed the application material. They will require a commercial entrance from County Road 166. They had no issues with the facility, though at the end when we mentioned the Planning Commission recommendation, they added a recommended condition that the applicant bring a letter of understanding about road use to the county that will be recorded with the special use with recordation. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. Foul or noxious odors and groundwater pollution are the main pollution concerns this facility could produce. This facility aims to limit all odors through capping materials and aeration techniques. The manure should be processed quickly. If so, the design of the aerated beds should limit the foul odor. Another pollution concern is groundwater contamination. The facility is designed with an 18-inch compacted clay to minimize groundwater contamination potential, and the site is graded to convey all contact water to a surface impoundment area. The compost facility has been designed in accordance with all Colorado solid waste regulations. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. Elbert County Public Health Department reviewed the application. The applicant will be required to apply for a septic system if there is ever a permanent office on site. Currently, this site will have a portable toilet which will serve the employees. F, the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. This facility is designed to maximize the distance from neighbors to the processing area. The composting and feedstock processing area is located approximately 120 to 130 feet from the east and west property boundaries respectively, and about 600 feet from the southern property boundary and about 1,000 feet from the northern property boundary. This will provide an adequate buffer to the property line from the composting area. A fence will be installed at the front, which will provide security, and the vegetation along the sides will prevent any off-site migration of debris. G, the use will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This use will not be detrimental to Elbert County residents. Kiowa Fire Protection District reviewed this application and has determined that all requirements have been met. Fire is a special concern with composting because temperatures can get very high, but fire safety plan is included. The applicant also has extensive knowledge of composting best practices and responded to all comments during a 9-month-long referral period that required revisions to the plan. Finally, H, supplemental standards will be met. All supplemental standards through the state will be met, and there are no additional supplemental standards from Elbert County. Based on the review of approval criteria found in Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3E5, and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions of the Richland special use by review. Staff recommend the Board of County Commissioners find the following for the special use request. It is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. It is generally compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area. 3, it will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. 4, it will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. 5, it will not cause significant forms of pollution. 6, it will meet all sanitation requirements. 7, it will be buffered. 8, it will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. 9, it will conform to the supplemental standards for the proposed uses. In consideration of the criteria set forth in Elbert County zoning regulations and that there are no objections from other review agencies, the recommendation of Elbert County Community and Development Services is that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Richer Lands composting application SUR 2023-1558 for a special use by review to permit a Class 2 composting facility at 15585 County Road 166 in Kiowa, Colorado. There are a couple added recommended conditions. 1, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the special use by review will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the special use by review exhibit is recorded. 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. 4, the applicant will adhere to the approval conditions from Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and send the final permitting documents and an approval email of the special use by review to Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for their records. They ask that the approval be sent to them. 5, a letter of understanding acceptable to Elbert County Public Works Department is drafted and recorded with the special use by review exhibit. And 6, a new traffic letter or study and a new letter of understanding acceptable to Elbert County Public Works Department will be required before the site is open to the public. That reflects the change in use and activities or volume of traffic accessing the site. So the current traffic letter stated about 40 vehicles. So there was some talk of this site being open to the public. And if the site were to be open to the public, we would want a new traffic letter and a new letter of understanding. So currently we're only asking for a letter of understanding that reflects the current 40 vehicle traffic per day. But if they expand and become open to the public, we then require a new traffic letter and a new letter of understanding with Public Works. So that concludes my presentation for Richard Land Special Use by Review, and the case is SUR-2023-1558. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have a small presentation we can show you via PowerPoint on the screen. I just wanted to give you a visual of the operation as it was and as it will be.
Let me just pull it up real quick.
Okay, my name is Jonathan Wetstein, co-owner with Richard Lands Compost and also Colorado Manure Hauling. Go ahead to the next slide. Richard,
Your address, sir. State your address, please.
my address? Yes. Oh, the 15585 County Road 166, Kiowa. Richard Lands Compost seeks to serve Elbert and surrounding counties as a premier composter for organic waste. We do specialize in the equine industry, so all the horse owner around here, boarding facilities, and anything in between. Next slide. Class 2 allowable feedstock examples. So it is the large animal manures plus the bedding materials, straw and hay bales, woody waste, also known as green waste. Included is yard waste and agricultural plant cullings and waste. So if we had a large tomato farm and they had a bunch of tomatoes go bad, they can bring it to me. There is no food. There is no biosolids. I just want to make that clear. Our technology and our process, composting is the result of a controlled biological decomposition of biodegradable materials that use aerobic processes. This is from the U.S. Composting Council. Following proven methods will greatly reduce the risk of smells and environmental impacts and other nuisances. Our authorities over us, the Colorado Department of Health, the Stormwater Division under the CDPHE, the Air Pollutant Emission APEN, local code enforcement, Elbert County, and the EPA. Our composting process, if we use the correct carbon to nitrogen ratio, oxygen and moisture percentage to achieve microbial action that in turn generates heat, to kill off weed seeds, harmful pathogens, and most animal medications. This process involves blending. We want 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen as an industry standard for an accepted ratio. The blending also includes getting the feedstock up to 50% moisture. That moisture is very key for the microbial action to start doing their process and get this degradation moving as quickly as we can. After it is loaded and the moisture is adequate, we move it to our aeration system. We mentioned a windrow operation. I'll show you an example of that. We're going to be moving directly into an aeration system, and I'll explain the differences and why that's better next. After the movement to the aeration system, temperatures are monitored. After the required temperature is achieved, they are moved to a curing pile. The accepted standard and CDPHE regulations mandate in this ASP system that the feedstock in the composting process has to achieve above 131 degrees for a minimum 3 days. And that is considered acceptable for the degradation of weed seeds and any potential nuisance and pathogens that may come through it. Next slide. Controls and safety, temperatures recorded via a wireless probe, constantly taking temperatures and recording to a cloud-based log. We have alerts on our phones. Managers that we hire down the road will also have these alerts on phones. And we can tie that in with the fire department, so if one of us gets something that goes off in the night, we can respond. The hope, or not the hope, but with this cloud-based system, we'll be able to see these temperatures rise and fall. Nothing just instantly takes off, and there's no spontaneous combustion. Temperatures taken off any feedstock piles as needed. When piles are brought in, if they remain overnight or for several days, we can take temperatures off of those and record those to make sure the feedstock itself is not generating heat before it is moved into the active composting process. The proper training of employees on the methods of composting and safety, what to look for. Daily house cleaning and maintenance of equipment. Water is constantly available for dust mitigation and fire suppression if needed. A clear process of reporting of incidents and communication with local fire authorities. Gated and locked facility after hours to prevent illegal dumping. Mandatory testing of finished product via CDPHE and USDA requirements. And that's more for the health and safety of the general public and wherever the compost is going out into the real world. And then the groundwater testing. We have 3 groundwater monitoring wells currently on the site. We will be taking background testing to start a historical trend. And we are mandated to test quarterly all 3 wells to make sure we're not increasing any nitrogen levels, phosphorus, things of that nature. Next slide. This is a general description of the aeration system. We will have a blower that supplies a 10-inch manifold PVC pipe, and we have pipes that run under the composting. This is how the feedstock gets its oxygen. With this method, we can achieve better temperatures and better control. This is capped with either wood chips or compost. There's less movement of the material during this active phase of composting, so your temperatures are limited, blowing debris is limited, and also the equipment is not moving as much. And you'll see a better example of what I mean when we show the windrow turner. Next slide. This is just a simple setup we made as a pilot on our first facility. You can see again, there's the fan, a simple PVC manifold, and those are 80-foot laterals of PVC pipe that run underneath the feedstock. They have holes drilled in it. It is not a high velocity system, it's low CFMs because we want to gently feed the oxygen into the composting process. This can also be used to cool a pile. If we notice temperatures getting too high, we can increase the air duration and bring those temperatures down. Next slide. This is just another example of an ASP system on another site. This is an example of a larger operation with an ASP system. So I just wanted to let you guys know this system is not new. It's not something I came up with. This is pretty nationwide. Next slide. Some equipment that we may be seeing on the site. The front end loaders, skid steers. Bottom right is a screener. Upper left is a grinder for woody material. This is our load scanner. This scans the weight and the volume, and we don't have to install a heavy duty scale. It makes it easier on us. It's a little cheaper. It's mobile. It's very efficient. This has been used on very large nationally known companies, so it's a proven method of weights and recording. This is our windrow turner, and we do have this is a video. You can see here it's got a water wagon behind a turner that is driven by a tractor. Water can be introduced into the system. The material is agitated. This is how we get air into a windrow system. It also makes it a homogeneous mix. We can pull out any contaminants that just fall gently to the side. But with this system, you would have to run each one of those windrows 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes daily, depending on the needs of the material. You cannot do this system around 22, 24 miles an hour in wind. You have to shut down. So we're moving into that ASP system. So There's less agitation of the material that you can see in the video. It doesn't involve the flipping and turning constantly to maintain oxygen and moisture. It's just an example of windrows in our other facility. There's the turner in the background. We have 9 of these at 300 feet. To give you a reference for the ASP system, the ASP system at 80 feet long can process the same amount of material as that 300-foot long windrow. It's about 425 cubic yards of material. So we greatly decrease the amount of material that's spread out on the composting side, but I can also be very secure in our growth. And on that 8-acre pad that the ASP systems, we can add on annually or as needed as we grow. And we won't run out of room really quick. We don't get overran because you can see on a 4-acre pad at 9 rows, your room starts to get a little limited. Okay, here's an overview of the site. I think Danny showed us this. I don't know if there's much more to explain on that. This is an example of the Colorado manure hauling trucks that bring in the manure. Sometimes these are attached with 14,000 GVW trailer that hauls the skidster. That's how they load the manure. And we also use these for taking compost out for deliveries. This is 18-yard capacity, single axle. And that's it.
So next thank you, sir. We'll come back to the questions. Next is the public input. Do we need to make a motion to go into public? Okay. Now? You want to input? Yes. Okay. You would give us your name and your address?
Sure. Jackie Alice, and I live at 6984 North Roxborough Park in Littleton, Colorado. And I purchased 2 lots over there, 2 40-acre parcels, just to the west of these people, before they moved in. I had no idea I was going to be living next to a fertilizer company. And I sent a letter. I hope you got it. If not, I can read it real quick. I'm thoroughly against this fertilizer company. I object to the fact that the company will be allowed at this address, and because of the following reasons. The dirt and dust, and they mentioned 40 truckloads a day. Well, does that mean 40 truckloads going in and 40 truckloads going out? That was never delineated. And the fertilizer, I'm a 3rd-generation rancher, so I know a little bit about fertilizer. It creates flies, gnats, and stink. And I don't understand how from the time they're being dumped to the time all this good stuff is supposed to be happening, where I won't have odor, flies, gnats, and whatever else. And let's see, this is a rural residential area. This is not a rural commercial area. And I know the people that live to the west of me. I've met most of the people out there. And I've talked to them. And they're not in favor of this either. So, you know, it all sounds good, but my land values will go down because who wants to live next to a stinky fertilizer company? I don't. I started building last year. I've built a 20 by 30 garage. I've moved in a few things. Now I'm stuck. I'm between a rock and a hard spot. Do I go ahead and build and get the odor and the stink? Do I sell? Who wants to buy? So both of my 40-acre parcels are going to go down in value. There you go. Thank you for listening. So I'm thoroughly against it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So now we have the BOCC questions and discussion.
Yeah, I have a couple. They might overlap between applicant and staff. I believe, Danny, you talked about that if there was odor, there'd be 3 inches of material on top. Did I miss that, misunderstood how that, because that seems like if you did 3 inches of day after day after day, pretty big, that gets pretty big pretty quickly. So just clarification on that.
So I believe that the 3 inches of material is basically just an initial covering, so you have that natural layer to prevent odors from emanating. So it's not, and you have these longer windrow piles, and that's put on top, if I'm correct.
The 2 methods. The windrowing, since it may involve agitation of the material, you would have to cap after each agitation when the workday is done. In the ASP system, you would have a cap minimum 4 to 6 inches, and that would be one and done.
And so if you're using the aeration system, you don't have to turn it over like the video showed, but in the event that you did, you'd have to recap it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, 2 more questions have to do with the conditions of approval. Number 4 is talking about that the applicant will adhere to the approval conditions from CDPHE and send final permitting documents. Is there any final or annual inspections that CDPHE does once a final approval takes place, or is that a one and done type situation?
As needed. The CDPHE will be there during the construction process. They are involved in that to make sure everything is built to standards. They are involved in the reporting of stormwater. To my understanding, they can pop in as needed. So if public comment comes up, or if there's complaints that I'm not aware of or I am aware of, I believe they can enter the site at any time. And they can also do that to make sure that we have adequate records on hand. Our stormwater management plan, our EDOP that was discussed, that governs our actions and how we operate. So yes, they can come on that.
So there still is oversight there even after the initial construction is I guess the basic of my question. Number 6 talks about, and Danny covered this a little bit, that there's a possibility maybe opening to the public. I assume that then you would be selling bulk and it's not going to become a baggage area where you're storing 50-pound bags of this, or what kind of process are we looking at?
I believe when we open to the public, the bigger issue will be incoming waste. We do have a small retail presence that, people will order bulk deliveries. Bagging can be in the future. It hasn't been not discussed.
Okay. That's all I have at this time.
Yeah, I have a few questions. It's obvious you put a lot of work, a lot of time into this application. Is there a reason you chose this particular route in this particular location versus going with a commercial piece of property or something that was zoned industrial? To me, this is light industrial / commercial. It has to deals with a agricultural product, but it's not really to me, it's not really an agricultural use. It's more of a light industrial or commercial use. So the SUR, and if I'm not mistaken, would change if it was open to the public based on what we're looking at today. He would have to come back and get a revised SUR then?
So he would need to bring in a new traffic study if it was going to be open to the public, which the requirements from Public Works might require more improvements. It would alter the operation. So,
But would it come back in front of the board? Because the way you stated it, it looked like it would just go to our Public Works Department, and they had the authority to sign off on it being open to the public.
currently, that's what we were looking at. You could certainly make a condition that if it were to be revised to be open to the public, it would have to be amended and reheard. But currently, that was the solution. If they were to open to the public for drop-offs, that a new traffic letter would have to come in, and it'd have to be acceptable to Public Works, because obviously they're the ones maintaining this county road.
Fencing. The Colorado Parks and Wildlife recommended an 8-foot fence. We mentioned a fence. What was the type and style of the fence? I didn't catch that.
So currently, there's basically screening with vegetative material, like a natural vegetation along the sides, and there was plans to have fencing along the front.
Okay. And currently, we're doing a letter of understanding for road use?
That's what Public Works requested. They wanted just a letter of understanding.
Because I know there was some concern about dust control. In the previous meeting, there was concern about dust control and the amount of dust that those trucks would generate and the damage to the roads and the impact on the roads that those trucks may generate.
Yeah, so Public Works recommended a letter of understanding based on the traffic letter that was provided. That's only 40 trips, and that's inclusive of to and from. So it's 40 total trips. They're not round trip. It wasn't a round trip estimation. So it was 40 total per day, and if they're going above that, then we would need to address road concerns with dust and deterioration of roads.
Water use. What's your daily water use or weekly water use that you predict?
I have an annual prediction of 1.9 acre feet.
Gotcha. Okay.
The daily would just be dependent on what is received, the feedstock, the seasonal variations.
To me, this is a tough application for me. It just is. I mean, you look at it one way, it's out in a big agriculture. You got some big agricultural lots out there, but on the other hand, you got citizens with concerns about their property values and future development in the area. So it's a tough one for me, and I'll leave it at that.
I have a couple of questions. In there, we were talking about response times or about odor complaints, that you would respond to that. Is there a stipulation in there about the response times? Would it be 15 minutes once you get an odor complaint? An hour? Do you have anything planned like that?
Well, our plan would be immediate. For CDPHE, we're supposed to have our sign out front with contact numbers, emergency contact numbers to make these reports. If citizens go to the county first, we can't help that. But as soon as the county notifies us, then, the sniffer is on. And we're going and looking for what happened, whether it was a process breakdown or an incoming load that, you try and control it as much as you want. We have processes in place that would train employees how to respond. Let's just say a heavy wet load comes in. It's a little stinky. And what they need to do is get that blended in with a dry carbon source and get that thing into the composting process as soon as possible. We can't promise no odors, but we can promise the best that we can do to respond to the odors in a timely fashion.
Okay, and then I am concerned about the traffic out there, and I know we've discussed it at length here, but what about an enhanced traffic study, and it would include potential cost to the county if we had to go in out there and make changes, repair the roads, things of that nature due to the high traffic volume?
So our Public Works Department can run their own traffic studies. They have vehicle counters and things like that. So and they are fairly responsive in this area because these are important county roads, 166, Kiowa Bennett, Comanche Creek. So they do have a presence in the area. They are aware of things. They tend to keep a pretty good eye. But if residents are saying, we're counting way more than 40 trips, I think with this letter of understanding, we'll have to say, hey, pause for a second. Why is it exceeding the number of trips that were stated in your traffic letter? If this continues, we're going to have to put a stop until we have a new traffic study, something of the like. And basically, it's difficult to have applicants in private businesses because there is another business on 166, I guess it'd be just east of Kiowa Bennett. So they have traffic coming in. There is existing business there. But I think based on the nature of this, before it's open to the public, you know, it should be limited. And if it is going to open to the public, it's going to need additional scrutiny. There's going to be necessary studies done before that operation commences. And that will be addressed. We'll make sure to address that and record that with the exhibit.
And if I may add, Commissioners, as you're aware, and just for the record, with any SUR application, if complaints are made or if the board deems it necessary to, if you will, reopen the case, you know, a review can be done annually on a given project. And if an applicant needs to come back and visit with you all, that is certainly within the regulations.
Or do you think there'll be any larger trucks than what's been shown here? Semi-trucks?
Not at this time, down the road. But like you said, as soon as that kicks off, then we're into a new traffic study. And we understand that and we're okay with that. All of our incoming feedstock and all of our outgoing compost has to be recorded for the CDPHE. So it's in our best interest to always monitor our incoming and outgoing. So those numbers can always be used to confer with complaints. It can be used to bounce off a traffic study if it does trigger one, you know, showing, hey, we did track our loads, or, you know, obviously if there's a bad actor, it would prove that out.
Mark, to your point about the SUR being reviewable on an annual basis, that was kind of where I was going with my question in regards to why this avenue was selected by the applicant versus buying a commercial property that was properly zoned for this type of work. And rather than going through this, he's got a lot of time, he's got a lot of money into this application, rather than going through an SUR process. So that's why I asked. I don't know if we ever heard from you on that. And then one quick question, Bart, if you're getting ready to leave, did you have any comment on this last late submission in regards to the ADA complaint? I want to hear from you before we, maybe after he answers his question, but I'd like to hear from you before we move forward on how that would take place. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry about that.
Or you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
We did search around. We sent multiple letters up and down Kiowa Bennett. That was our kind of choice location to where we could locate it.
Well, that's the EDZ zone.
It was, and we went for it, and it never panned out. We did enter into negotiations with one gentleman, and he disappeared. Wasn't interested. The other one is land value and the cost of land. The new commercial area up here where Burnco cement is, their lots were not big enough, in our opinion, to provide an adequate buffering for neighbors, and they wanted about $100,000 an acre.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Those lots were very expensive. So we did put some thought into this. At that time, it was one of the only available lots that we had. The location was optimal for reducing travel time, and that would also reduce the cost that we would have to pass on to our clients for manure hauling.
Okay, thank you.
Bart, do you have any comments, concerns?
Yeah, I think on a couple things, I can certainly talk to you about this letter if you'd like to do so. Mark is correct in SURs being reviewable, at least on an annual basis. So that is something that is within the county's authority to do so. Certainly on applications of this sort where there may be vehicle traffic, you can also require road use agreements. That is also something that is within your power and authority, that when certain conditions are met that are attributable to the applicant, then certain things will occur. That'll be repairing of roads or reimbursement for repairing of roads, expansion of roads, turn lanes, acceleration, deceleration lanes if certain warrants are met, those sorts of things. So those are always on the option table for this board. So I did want to state that. Did you have any other questions?
Well, in regards to that, would that be something that we'd want to have in place before voting to approve it?
If that is something that you would like, you can do it either way. My preference is if we're going to have those sorts of agreements, or want those sorts of agreements, to have those done ahead of time. It is not atypical, however, to have a requirement as a condition of approval that a road use agreement that is acceptable to the Public Works Director and or the county attorney is a condition of approval. And so that would be something, if you wanted to put something like that in place, I could certainly work with the applicant, if that condition is acceptable to the applicant, to work through the issues along with Public Works in order to ensure we have something that's in place that's appropriate.
Thank you. And then any comment on the ADA standards?
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure whether, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of the detail because I'm not sure if this is meant to be confidential. What I will say is I believe the ability for folks of all abilities needs to be ensured at public hearings. And I can tell you that any hiccups that have occurred with regard to that, we certainly want to address them, and I know they are adequately being addressed to ensure all members of the public can attend hearings at all times.
But has this member of the public had an opportunity to attend either that meeting or this meeting? When was he going to be able to attend if he can't attend today?
I hear you. The only way that would be able to be...
Well, I'm trying to be fair to everybody.
Yeah, there is always an opportunity to provide comment to the department, Community and Development Services, building, those sorts of things. So email and phone comments are a way that can be accommodated. But certainly if an individual wants to comment personally in person, we need to ensure that that is something that they're capable of doing. But email, quite frankly, is also an excellent approach for folks that have access to email as well. We need to ensure that we keep all of those avenues available to ensure that we're allowing members of the public to utilize the the medium of their choice, whether that's in-person, email, or mailing comment in, those sorts of things. So I don't think that in this particular instance was, it appears that was not something that was, they were able to avail themselves of. And I think that there have been several discussions to ensure that that will not be an issue moving forward.
Any further discussions, questions with DOCC?
Just for the applicant, well, these are some additional conditions of approval. I'm assuming that you are agreeable to those that are listed here.
Yes.
Anything?
Well, I don't have them in front of me what those conditions of approval would be if he's acceptable to them at this time, but
It would have been in your packet. It's part of the proposed resolution.
no, I mean additional.
Yeah, the first three are our standard conditions of approval. The 4, 5, and 6 are the additional ones that I was referring to.
Okay, I thought you meant additional on top of these additional.
Thank you. Next item is the BOCC decision. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Richard Land's composting SUR 2023-1558 with the conditions of approval as presented.
Second? Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We will need a motion to close the land use hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move we close public hearing on Richard Land's composting SUR 2023-1558.
Second it.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
The last item on here has been, the applicant has requested a continuance for an Independence PUD Amendment 4. So that has been continued. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chair, we will still have to open a public hearing on this as it's been posted, is my understanding, and set a posting time and date certain.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, as you articulated, due to a scheduling conflict, the applicant has requested a continuance. The day and time certain in terms of the request would be your regularly scheduled BOCC meeting on February 26, 2025, the land use hearing segment at 1 p.m.
Mr. Chair, I move we open public hearing on Independence PUD Amendment 4.
Motion?
Yes, it is.
Second?
Second.
Carries.
Mr. Chair, in regards to the applicant requesting continuance, I move that we continue this public hearing to February 26, 2025 at 1 p.m. in this location.
There's a motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, with that being said, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move we close public hearing on Independence PUD Amendment 4.
That's what I was going to ask. Motion for closing the public hearing. Second. Thank you. All right, we'll ask for motion for adjournment.
We should vote on their previous motion.
We all did. Aye. I said aye. But okay, you want to vote again? Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.